Hey everybody, it's Rob here. The test server for Season 5 has ended and I played quite a lot on this test server. And this is the final season before the Vessel of Hatred expansion comes out here. So this is a short season, but I also feel an important one. So they did a lot of cool quality of life changes such as damage number filters, the minion AI on the Necro has been improved, the new beam for the Uber uniques or the Uber bosses can be resummoned. This has all been cool. But overall, I must say that for me personally, Season 4 felt a lot better than Season 5. I did not had as much fun on the PTR. That was also because there was a lot of bugs and stuff. This is can happen on a PTR. There's still 4 weeks to give feedback. But also, a lot of things and systems have been, in my opinion, changed for the worse. And there's definitely some problems with the game that has been acknowledged by a wide majority of the community. And I want to make this video to talk about it because I think that is a problem. And I also think that needs to change. So in this video, I want to share some ideas of what could be improved. Again, in my opinion, I also talked with my community and we came up with some possible solutions. And I will also be sending a written version of this feedback to Blizzard so we together can help improve the season and make it a good season for the Vessel of Hatred to come then later. So only 4 weeks to focus. I will be focusing on the most pressing topics. There's obviously a lot of topics, but I only want to be focusing on the most important parts here from my perspective. That is mainly the season theme, the Infernal Hordes, the pit changes that they did, and the class balance as well as the way we are testing for the future. So first of all, I want to say I'm super happy that we had a PTR even in the first place. This is not a given, and this has only been happening for 2 seasons now. I really like that there is a PTR, and a lot of people in the community are up to give feedback, to test stuff, to jump in because they have so much passion for the game here. But there are certainly a couple of things here that I want to talk about before we get into the theme and stuff. Is basically the PTR, the way it works, and our ability to test the game at the moment. So I think a lot of players, especially in my community, has been very frustrated with the limited efficiency that we have on the PTR testing. And this obviously impacts the feedback negatively. There was a couple of common problems that could be improved for future PTRs to make it way easier, such as instant access to all the uniques, especially the new ones. I remember when I was playing and we didn't even have the new uniques for days. It took, and some people here in my community that never even got the uniques playing the PTR for multiple days. So just a vendor or some way to acquire these new uniques when you make a new character to get all the new uniques or something would be much appreciated. Access to masterwork materials and also materials, gold in general. I think this goes as I was saying, we should not be quote unquote required to grind on the PTR to test stuff, right? And this is really combined with some of the pit bugs that we will talk about later, or changes, because we don't really know if it's bugs, but changes to the pits. It has been tremendously difficult to get materials to even test the new stuff on the PTR. Same for the temper manuals. We had to farm them all again, even though we already had them on the live server. So that was kind of weird. Codex of Power wasn't unlocked, and our ability to import the character. They took a random snapshot from I don't know, 5 days in the past or something. It would be really cool to see maybe it's possible in Diablo 3 where you can just import your current character from the live server onto the PTR rather than having an outdated snapshot and missing half your gear or something. So these are just some things to really improve the PTR experience, make it more fun, and also get more feedback from a wide range of players that are willing to test for free and spend hours and hours and write feedback, as well as drastically just improve the quality of this feedback and just a more positive attitude for the entire community for the PTR, because I think it is crucial. And again, I'm really happy that the PTR exists in the first place, but I think this is some pretty easy changes, maybe not the last one, but at least a couple early ones here that would make it a lot easier for people to test the game. And then let's talk about the biggest thing here. That's the season theme. So there's this new wave mode here that they introduced into the game. So I'm gonna be realistic here. There was a lot of mixed feedback. A lot of it was negative, some of it was positive. But at this point, guys, I think the development is so far that this is gonna come. And I'm just hoping that they can improve it. So it's a good or an okay game mode. I don't think there's any chances, because many people ask, man, maybe they should completely rework the season theme. Like, that's most likely not gonna happen, guys. Let's just be real here. This thing is coming out in 4 weeks. So I'm just focusing on giving constructive feedback to make this Infernal Horde wave system game mode better. That, by the way, is going to be a permanent addition to the game, such as the Gauntlet, and that's also going to be a variable in the expansion Vessel of Hatred. So this is my feedback here. So first of all, like, it looks great, and it actually has some pretty challenging waves. I was like doing it with my Whirlwind Barb, and especially in tier 8 on the end, it became really, really hard. But mainly what was missing for me and for many people, it was the fun. The fun part was missing, and here are the main problems and also possible suggestions here why I think the fun part wasn't there. So first of all, I want to talk about the waves. So it feels like you were stuck in there for way too long. It's basically a static area, and you have monsters coming at you, and you have a timer here that's ticking down, and you have no way to like improve or increase, you know, reduce the amount of time this event takes. It's always a static time, and I think the time is too long, especially later on when you have 10 waves. It's 90 seconds plus the time it takes you to clean the monsters. So it was very common to see on the high tiers that players would play this for 45 up to 60 minutes up on end, and basically for almost no reason, because the rewards we're going to talk about in a second were also not in a good spot. So I think it would be cool to speed up the event, make it more fast-paced for today's society, and instead of a fixed timer, maybe make it speed up based on kill speed, or reduce the time for the whole event. Maybe we could even, like, you know, skip the low tiers if you have a very powerful character. Maybe you can even skip entire waves. We had this kind of system in Diablo 3, where you could just, you know, like if you were killing wave 1 very fast, you could just skip to wave 3 or wave 4 instantly, right? Because you just instantly evaporated everything. I just remember going in here the first time on my Whirlwind Barb. I was like a god and it could only go on tier 3. And it was just boring because everything was dying one shot, and I just had to wait for 10 minutes before, you know, I could even like get any rewards. So that felt like really bad. And hoping something to skip waves and then maybe even attach some rewards to this, like a monster kill streak or something. You know, if you kill a lot of waves like very fast in a row, maybe you get like, you know, a pop-up like, whoa, I don't know, ruthless. Like now you're getting a 1.5x ether multiplier or something. Like something cool that changes the way you play and also incentivizes you to, you know, speed through this and just have a strong build for this, basically. Also, more impactful modifiers. So after each wave here, there are these modifiers here that basically gives some extra, like small things or some debuffs or some buffs to you or some more enemies that basically impact the wave system. But in general, I felt like the majority of these modifiers didn't really feel impactful to me and also to many people. And it would be cool to get modifiers that really impact the way you play the game. I've heard a lot of ideas in the community, like maybe, you know, you have some really crazy stuff happening, like you click one and then suddenly Lilith spawns, or you click one of them and then it spawns a world boss, or, you know, a random shrine appears as a positive thing, or maybe there's like a pack of goblins that is running around in the area that you have to kill like very fast to get some, you know, big reward for it, or some big ether multiplier or something, you know, just something that changes the way to play, because like people were already standing AFK here because it was just so boring and you couldn't influence really like the outcome that much with what you were doing. So I think like just really break it up and like have some cool stuff happening in the arena, you know. Like, I don't know, how cool would it be? Suddenly there's a Shava there, or some world boss, or the floor cracks, or there's a bunch of goblins, there's a shrine, like many ideas here for sure. And then the rewards. So you not only were you stuck there for a long time, it was also not efficient at all, because the rewards were actually absolutely lovable. I just want to show you real quick here. This is me finishing the highest tier, and we juiced it fully. And I think I had like, if I pick these, like 350 of these ethers, and we picked up the biggest chest. And what did it give us? It gave us 3 items. Like here, I'm opening this chest. 250, you can't even get this on the low tiers, and it gives you 3 items. It took us, I think, like 45 minutes to get 3 items and 1 scroll. Absolutely ridiculous. So these rewards, they need a 10x, or they need to be made cool in some way. And basically it's nowhere near the efficiency of a Helltide or Nightmare Dungeons or Pits even. So some ideas here, and this is just ideas, guys. You can let me know in the comments like what you would do with the rewards, because this is a very controversial topic. But what I would find cool is maybe if you're opening this big 250 chest here, maybe you could get a guaranteed 2 greater FX item. This is like one of the ideas. You open the 250 chest and you know there's going to be 100% chance for a random item in there that has at least 2 greater affixes. I think 3 would be too crazy, but 2 greater affixes, so high chance of it being an upgrade to your character. So that would be a big incentive of farming, like, at least double GA items. Or maybe if you open the big chest, or if you finish the highest level, maybe there's a chance for an Uber Unique, or maybe even, a Resplendent Spark, or something that makes it worth your while. And some other way of acquiring these rather than just like, killing Duriel over and over again. So, because also the Iron Wolf questline is going to go away. So you're going to have less choices there, and you can't get it from the Iron Wolf questline from Helltide anymore. So maybe some new idea to get a Resplendent Spark, or also to get Uber Uniques. Just some incentive for people, because people just ask me like, why would I do this mode? And yeah, my answer is, I don't know. It's first of all, it's not fun, and second of all, it's not rewarding, even if you quote unquote suffer through it. So yeah, there just needs to be an incentive basically. First tier completion could also be like a spark, right? You do it the very first time, the highest tier, the tier 8, and once you beat it, it's like a milestone, like a goal to reach. Maybe there's an achievement for it or something, and similar to Lilith or the tormented boss kills, because these bosses are pretty hard in the end. And if you clear this, like, it would yield you a guaranteed spark. So there would be like just a good incentive to at least engage with the system and clear the highest tier. Then also more crafting materials from the chests, and also maybe a good chunk of Angle Breath. So you guys know there's like these different chests you can open. So here I opened the middle one. On the left one there's equipment. On the right one here, this one here is usually materials. So this one just drops a couple of materials, and I think it could be significantly improved. A lot of people have problems with Angle Breath, or also with the Masterwork material, the Neath Iron and stuff. And I think it could just be like, made a lot more here with those kind of rewards. And Angle Breath is the bottleneck anyway, so something like that would be cool. And also, one big quality of life change, after you finish the run, you may have some ether left over here, like I did here. I had 37 left over. And these ether, like, if you don't spend it, it just poofs, goes away. So you're like kind of forced to spend it on the gold chest, which doesn't really give that much gold. So I think a cooler way, and also make it easier for also a more casual audience to open the big chest that has proper rewards, hopefully. Make the ether carry over into the next Infernal Horde. So you see this 37, I can choose. There's just like Baneful Hearts or something. Like, do I want to keep them? And if I keep them, I just have them permanently until I spend them, basically. So into the next and the next and the next, and however long you want to go, carry the rewards over. I think that would be pretty cool. And then one final piece of feedback for the Infernal Hordes is the boss fight. So they said, first of all, the bosses look amazing. They look incredibly cool. They have a lot of history, like these, high council bosses. Like, I remember fighting them in Act 2, and they just look fantastic. But there was something that was not noticeable, is first of all here, there was supposed to be 5 different bosses, but this was barely noticeable to me. So they need a stronger identity, in my opinion, that you can feel that you're fighting different ones. So I was just fighting them, and I never even like really had to pay any attention of how they are called or what the abilities are. So it didn't really feel impactful, because they were talking in the dev stream about like all these kinds of different combination that the bosses can spawn, because you have 5 different ones and 3 spawn in a set and stuff, and they can combine their attacks and stuff. I didn't really like feel that, so it was not really relevant to me which bosses I was fighting, or I wasn't noticing it. So I think they need a bit of a stronger identity here, and this also goes in the first point here. And they were also supposed to empower themselves. But how did you feel about it, guys? I never even really noticed it. When I killed the boss, that the other boss got stronger. Like that just like didn't really like impact my gameplay, or I didn't even feel it. So maybe they could like, you know, make them get extra affixes, extra abilities, or, you know, they grow in size, like, you know, they enrage or something. Like they just grow a lot bigger, like they're like some visual effect, and then also like some noticeable mechanic. Because this is the last guy and he just looks like he would normally look, right? Even though we killed both of his brothers already. So I didn't really feel any impact from that. And since they specifically mentioned that this should be a thing, I think the player should feel it. And then last one here is similar to pit bosses. They mostly feel like damage sponges rather than hard bosses. I would much prefer, and this is my opinion, I know people feel different ways about this, but I would much prefer a significantly reduction in health, but then give them actual mechanics that you are strongly encouraged to dodge or that change or impact your gameplay, right? Because, you know, in the end, like, you just have a build that can tank them, and then their damage doesn't really matter, and you're just standing there, and they're running around, and they are just like a big damage sponge that they tank. And this guy, you see, sometimes they keep running away as well, very annoying as a melee character. So I just like, you know, think health reduction and then give it some meaningful mechanic that you are strongly encouraged to dodge. I think that would change, you know, the interesting part of this fight, because it just feels like, yeah, they're just some tanks and eventually you're gonna kill them. But yeah, that is my feedback on the season theme, the Infernal Hordes. Again, we're not gonna make this into like a perfect season theme, I don't think, but it can still be a cool mode. It looks nice, and I kind of like an arena system if it's well done. So we'll see. I feel at least with these changes, it's gonna become a decent system for a lot of people. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. This was the first main topic. I have kind of two more. So next one is the pit, and last one is the class balance. So let's talk about the pit. So I'm not even sure which changes were intended and which were just bugs. So there was a lot of changes that they did with the pits. So I think there was 3 main changes. They did change the amount of health. I think that was a bug, especially like when you die and then you would resummon, the boss health will change. So definitely a bug, I think. They changed the amount of progression that the pits gave. So I don't know if that was a bug or not, but that definitely didn't feel fun. And they also gave the bosses a stacking debuff, similar to the tormented bosses. So let's talk about that. So generally, I feel the pits were a lot less fun on the PTR when compared to the current Season 4. I personally did not enjoy it as much. So maybe it was due to the bugs or some of the bugs, but maybe it was also some things they intended to change. I'm not quite sure. Either way, the progression, in my opinion, should definitely go back the way it is right now in Season 4. It is extremely frustrating to run out of monsters or have to search for them. This is not the Diablo kind of playstyle, man. If I have to run around, run out of monsters and have to search for them rather than focus on killing them, but there are no monsters. So it's just like, I wanted to like uninstall and alter 4 like halfway through some of the pit runs on the PTR. It was really frustrating to me. And I don't understand, like, why does the pit only have to have 2 floors? Like, can't it just continue and continue, or at least have 3 floors at least, so you never encounter this problem that you run out of enemies? Especially on the PTR, man. It was, depending on the build that you play, it was almost happening every other run. Like, you could not complete some runs unless you literally killed every single teeny tiny spider that sometimes spawns after the monster even died. So that was an extreme frustration point for me, and I think also for a lot of people. And another one here that isn't really new, but that fits thematically here, is the checkpoint systems in the pit need another look. Maybe they could let us spawn like right on the location where we die, like in Diablo 3. But sometimes, man, if I would die in a pit and I would be in level 2, I die and then I click revive at last checkpoint, and then it revives me somewhere in China, or like even in level 1 sometimes, man. Like, like somewhere where, like, it's just crazy, like a level back or something. Like that was insane. So yeah, the checkpoint system I think needs another look at. also, I think they could consider adjusting some of the most frustrating layouts. So some layouts, like I call it the jail, it looks like this. And this layout has basically some guaranteed... Oh, I lost the timestamp. Maybe I can find it. But there's like a layout that has guaranteed dead ends. Didn't save the timestamp here. Okay, I can't find it now. But there's a layout, I'll maybe add a screenshot later. And that has guaranteed dead ends. Like you go into the run and you already kind of know, are you going left or are you going right? Okay, here it is. I found it. So yeah, this is the layout. This is called, I mean, I call it the jail. And you guys can see here, there like is a crossroad. You can go up here or you can go down here. But you already know with the limited progression that one of them is a dead end and one of them is not. But it's completely 50-50. And you probably have to kill all the monsters in the dead end anyways to get enough progress. So yeah, then you continue here. And it's just extremely annoying because now you're not killing the monsters down there. And I feel like these layouts happen a lot in this particular tile set. And I don't think running into like basically a guaranteed or having to run into the dead end because else you don't have enough progression is a big problem. And I think this jailer layout needs to be either redesigned or removed so it connects and there's no forced dead ends. That really like kills the mood for me as well, like having to backtrack. And this has been a big critique point of the dungeon and the design in general, that you have to backtrack a lot in Diablo 4. And I think this jailer layout is the worst offender. There's a couple other ones, but definitely the jailer is the worst offender. And then also, I've been saying this since we saw the pits for the first time, consider adding a leaderboard. We have this leaderboard for the gauntlet, but we don't have leaderboards for the pits. That was just like crazy to me. And maybe like, you know, you could like show the clear time as well, because people are very interested in like how fast they cleared the run. Maybe have a pop-up in the game or something. But yeah, a leaderboard for pits separated by class or something, that would be super cool. Next, for the bosses, I've been saying this in the past as well, I think the boss life should be decreased or shifted to elites and monsters in the run itself. On the high-end clears, guys, you're basically spending about 3 to 5 minutes clearing the run, and then you are spending, and this is almost true for every build, for all the top boss clears, you are spending 10 minutes just for the boss fight. And it just doesn't feel good to fight the same boss with the same mechanics for 10 minutes straight, especially on the high end. But even on the low end, the boss fights are a huge frustration point. And maybe even more so now if you guys played the PTR, because I don't know if this is intentionally or not, but they have added the pit boss stack mechanic. So whenever you're fighting the boss, you're getting this little debuff down here in Season 5, or at least on the PTR, if they're not changing it, that basically increases the amount of damage that you take. And they have this, and you might know this, from Tormented Duriel, from the Tormented bosses in general. So if you get hit a couple too many times by the boss mechanics, you will die. You have I think it's stacked up to 3 on the PTR, so you'll, I don't know, take something like 75% increased damage or whatever it was. So the base idea, I think I'm okay with it. I'm like a bit on the fence here, but I could like see that I like the base idea, but it should come at the absolute minimum with a great reduction, and I mean a significant reduction in boss HP, so they don't feel like a damage sponge. If they are made more dangerous in terms of offensive, they should not have this much HP. And I don't know, cut the HP divided by 4 or something. Like it's insane how much they tank on the high tier and how easy it is to clear the run itself, but then, you know, bash your head against this boss for 10 minutes and you don't have enough damage to even kill him. So I think that's just boring. And yeah, maybe they could also add additional ways of removing or getting rid of these stacks again. Such as if you don't take damage for, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds, if you just don't get hit at all, it would remove a stack. Or if you stagger the boss, it would remove one of those debuff stacks. So you at least have a way of fighting a boss, you know, on the high level without getting one-shotted at the end. If you at least, you know, have like a way of getting rid of the stacks again. And then also in terms of rewards. So this has been basically a change that happened like a couple patches ago, but basically the material rewards on high tiers, they stop scaling at 101. And you guys can see here, until pit 101, you get always +1 neat iron per pit tier. But at 101, it goes down to like, I think it's 0.5 or maybe even a bit less. I don't know if this data is 100% correct. But at 101 is the breakpoint where it basically stops scaling properly or linearly. And after that, it just keeps going down. So it would be, I think, very good for the game to change this, because at the moment it's strongly like there's basically no point to farm anything higher than 101 because you're not really getting any more rewards for it. Like, you're getting a slightly higher chance for getting Stygian stones, but this one is so unnoticeable that most people just run 101 and that's it. Like, you have no incentive to ever go higher. Even if you get double damage, you would never go higher because it just ain't worth it to spend an extra, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds per run to get half more material or something. So you'd have to go at least up 2 tiers, and then it's just not worth it, basically. So I think maybe they could consider, keeping the +1 scaling. So instead of this being +1.5, like, it just stays +1. And I mean, it doesn't get too crazy, right? Like, even at +1, okay, now you would get, 61 materials, and if you would be farming 111, you would get 70 materials. And this might be, at least worth considering going higher. And I don't think the rewards are getting too crazy. Like, no one is running down here. Like, you were never going to be speedrunning these where you would get 100 mats. And that's even still, like, you would have to run, just 2 100s, which takes like, I don't know, like 3-4 minutes. And there's no way you're going to do 4-minute speedruns in 140. So I think it at least gives it a compatible chance. But right now, like, in 140, like you're only getting 80, which is only 20 more than in 101. And there's basically no reason to ever farm this high. And I think it's not good for the game. And doesn't incentivize you to do any of the high tiers ever. And there's no leaderboard, so you're basically just doing it to challenge yourself, but only personally. So I think there needs to be a change for this kind of stuff. And also, the current group scaling of rewards strongly disincentivizes players from grouping up and playing with their friends. I don't know, like, why this happened or anything, but like, Diablo is an open world game. Like, it's a very social game. You are interacting with people, you're trading with people, you're playing together with people. It's a lot of fun, and a lot more fun to play video games together rather than playing it alone, I think, for majority of people. And obviously there needs to be a certain balance between a solo player and group players. But to punish a group player by 50%, giving him 50% less rewards than a solo player, like, that's just crazy to me. Like, I've never, like, really done any grouping up of friends in the pit for this reason, because it's just not efficient and you're just punishing yourself. And it's always like, striking a big discussion if, you should, like, who should be the leader and, like, who should be the guy that gets the penalty. And it's just a very bad game design, in my opinion. So what they could do here, because I also understand we don't want leechers, maybe they could add a pop-up screen. When I go in-game and I plug my rune shards, right? It costs you 3 rune shards to open a pit. So what if, and I mean, I know it's crazy, we have the system in Diablo 3 already, when you open a Greater Rift in Diablo 3, and they compared the system to Diablo 3 Greater Rifts many times. So you pay 3 rune shards and I press open, and now, okay, I would press it and there would be a pop-up now to all the party members in my party, asking them, Rob is about to open a pit 101. Would you like to join, and would you like to spend rune shards? And then you can say, yes, I want to spend rune shards, or no, I don't want to spend rune shards. And if you decide to spend rune shards, then you should be eligible for 100% of the rewards. And for those people that didn't contribute rune shards, they could get the penalty. So this would be a way of stopping people from leeching there, and everybody, like, paying the entry fee, but then also everybody getting the same rewards. But right now we don't even have this option. So I think that would be very helpful for group and for, like, socializing in the game, playing with friends. And I don't really see any downside for this. And there was also some bugs, like the the new boss, the Mother's Embrace, sometimes just didn't drop loot. It's just like a bug report. And he can also kill you after you've been defeated. They fixed this in the past where, you know, the boss, if he like spawns some AoE effect after he's been defeated, can't kill you, or could kill you in the past, but now it's changed. And on the new boss, they need to update this as well. There's like a new pit boss. I like it. Like, you know, they keep adding pit bosses. That's cool. Mother's Embrace, it's called. And it's pretty dangerous, though. It does a lot of damage, too. So there's definitely some balancing to be done, I think, for the new pit boss here. And that's basically been my feedback on the pits. Let me know what you think in the comments. Then, probably the biggest topic. I'm going to try to keep it short because I already made a separate like a pit tier list, like first draft video here that I'm also going to be linking in the description. And for this purpose, because I played Barb as my main class, I want to mainly focus on Barb. And that's mostly my feedback here for the Barb. But I also, again, have another video talking about general game balance. So I think the Flay Barb, in particular, is overperforming like crazy. There is a couple of crazy clips here that I did where the Flay Barb is basically hitting here for 500 billion damage. And Flay has basically been, you know, one of the top performing builds and also been buffed every recent patch for some reason. So it keeps getting buffs and it's already the strongest build and it's only going to get even stronger. So this is the only S+ tier build that I even have on my tier list. So Flay Barb just got another buff with the new Shard of Veranthiel and the buffs to like just various other things and other uniques. And it just keeps getting crazier. And maybe, and of course, I'm not one that like really is looking for nerfs, but I think the Flay Barb has just been overperforming like crazy. And I would maybe consider giving it the Bash Barb treatment. So bring it more in line with all the other Barb builds and also all the other classes. Because Flay is, I mean, like if we're hitting for 500 billion damage, like they could literally, you know, take away a 0 here and it would still hit for 50 billion. Which is more than, you know, most other builds anyways. So I'm not sure like if there was also some bugs involved. I didn't really find any bugs. This was like to me the highest performing non-bugged build in the game. And you guys can also see here how crazy even just the normal flay ticks are. Like here, just flaying on the target, man. And it's bleeding for 11 billion twice a second. So that's like 22 billion just in bleeds. And then you can rupture them. With the new, and it's also buffed, the Wanton Rupture got buffed again. So yeah, Flay just keeps getting more love and it basically also kills every other Barb build because none is even close to the Flay Barb at the moment with the recent buffs. So, you know, I think this one, we can't just buff everything to Flay level. I mean, then we're just getting like completely crazy out of hand here with 500 billion damage. So I think the Flay Barb needs to come down just a little bit. Maybe they could give us like a similar treatment to the Bash Barb because Bash Barb also got a nerf. But it's still kind of fine on the PTR, right? It got divided by 5, but it also got a lot of new stuff, which maybe even makes it stronger than what it used to be. So Bash Barb is fine, but yeah, Flay Barb is looking like insane at the moment. And also this goes hand in hand, like maybe they could break up the basic skill meta. I've heard this a lot in the community as well, where, you know, like your core skills, for example, core skills, you know, here, if you read the description, are supposed to spend resource and deliver powerful attacks. But I feel more and more that the core skills are basically support skills. Like, you know, looking at the Hoda Barb here, for example, like we just used this Hoda rune to buff our bash and stuff. And also if you're comparing like Flay and the multipliers compared to Rend, like it's kind of a joke. Like basic skills are basically, the meta is just like getting crazier and crazier, especially, you know, with the new Shard of Veranthiel, a weapon here that buffs you. I'm going to show it to you here. That buffs your basic skills by like a crazy amount, basically. And I think it would be good to at least bring them more in line, or also buff core skills or something, because there's a lot of cool core skills in the game. But if they keep adding multipliers like this, where you literally get 4 extra damage without a significant downside, because this downside can be completely negated basically by the crown or by Starless Sky and things like that, we're just always going to be stuck in a basic skill meta, and I think that's pretty boring long term. So I would like to see, you know, some balance adjustment there for basic skills. I mean, basically versus everything else in the game, but mainly against core skills, because almost every build is like a basic skill build now. And also the new uniques, the Crown of Lucion, the Talisman, they feel very mandatory. Like this combination here with the Viranthiel Shard, the new one here, and then also the Talisman, especially for Bash. I mean, for Flay it doesn't work because Flay doesn't crit like that. But this combination here is extremely strong, these 4 items. And they said they don't want another, you know, Season 2 Tybert's Will situation. So I think they need to come a bit down, especially the Helm here. It just feels like it was also insanely broken on the PTR. So I would not be surprised to see some changes here. And I also think it would be good for the game to, you know, tune this down at least a little bit. But I agree the new uniques, they should feel powerful, but they should not be mandatory for every build. And with the current design, they will be for almost every build. And then we have the new Iron Maelstrom Barb. I made a video about that already. It's a pretty cool build. It looks cool. It's fun to play. The only problem is it's an ultimate and it just doesn't deal any damage. It's the same problem here with some of the core skills. Like you just don't have a real way of scaling it. The Barb looks cool. You can play it in Helltide, in speedruns, in Nightmare Dungeons. And it's very nice, but ultimates in general, they strongly lag behind any of the other skills, especially basic skills. Like, you know, how is it that a basic skill that doesn't have a cooldown, that doesn't cost anything, does like 10, 100 times more damage than an ultimate ability that has like a tremendously long cooldown? Like, it's just crazy. Like, just looking at the numbers here, I think like both ultimates here are extremely outdated in terms of the damage that they do, right? Call of the Ancients recently got a damage buff, but the direct damage that it does is completely irrelevant basically in the end game. And same goes for the Iron Maelstrom. So either they need to like look or buff ultimates or give the new item, I don't know, like some damage multiplier or just something to make it more viable. Here is the Unbroken Chain. There's definitely some improvements that could be made to ultimates here. I feel it's just like very underwhelming. And then obviously we had some bugs that I also want to be talking about. We have the Twister Glyph. So the second effect does not work on a Twister Glyph. This is the case in the live game and also the main reason why we don't use it on the PTR. So I just want to like, you know, highlight this again. And I'm hoping that the Twister Glyph here is going to get some adjustments so that the secondary effect works, because it's extremely misleading. I'm getting questions about this every single day if they finally fixed it. Maybe for Season 5 we'll see a fix, guys. Or maybe a hot fix, that would be great. 200 sword expertise is the same thing. If you're going to the sword expertise here on the Barb, is the class mechanic. It's also broken. First of all, they fixed the icons here, so that's good on the PTR already. But the 200 sword expertise here is supposed to give you direct damage, 20% of the direct damage as bleeds. But this one does not work with Tyrell's Might, which is definitely direct damage. It also doesn't work with any of the Twister stuff, and I think it just doesn't work with anything that's not a skill. And that sounds like a bug to me, because it doesn't say that you have to use a skill or something, right? Like you can't use a proc to, you know, use this, so you can't like get the Tyrell's Might or any of the, like any other procs in the game, basically. Anything that's an item. And I think that's very counterintuitive, because nowhere does it say this. So either they need to upgrade the description, or they need to fix this, what I think is a bug. It's also misleading. Like, here's a lot of people ask me like why I'm not playing Grandfather all the time, and yeah, it just like doesn't work, guys. It's bugged. And then we have the Crown of Lucion. It's a similar bug here. So here it's the same thing. It says that it gives you increased damage, but what it doesn't say that it's only working for skills. So this one also doesn't work with your Whirlwind and your Twisters at all. So that's one of the reasons why this item is like dead for a Whirlwind Barb, for example. So you see, like, it's extremely misleading as well, because the tooltip doesn't say that. And I think they need to do either a better job with the tooltips, or, you know, make this in line with the tooltip, and it's just a bug. Then small wish list here at the end, guys. It was a long video already. We add normal crit chance to the Gore's Devastating Grasp. That would be amazing. Like, they try to, you know, this was an amazing item when the game came out. It has been nerfed heavily right on the launch and in Season 1 again. And it has basically not seen any daylight since. It's never been played. And they keep buffing it little by little, and I appreciate that a lot, but I feel some things here on the item are still a big problem. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of having more control, so they changed this. So the whirlwind automatically explodes. You know, back in the days, you could hold the whirlwind. That would be cool to see back. That was also a very strong mechanic. But also an easy change here is it has crit chance, but only against close enemies. This one is basically like a death sentence for this item, because you also can't use this to scale various mechanics, such as gushing wounds. Because the way gushing wounds work, it only takes the crit chance, you know, that you have on your sheet. So if your sheet crit chance here is 90%, and then I get extra 12% versus close, I would never get 100% for gushing wounds, because the close is not recognized, you know, for the scaling of, for example, gushing wounds. So I think, I don't know why it has only crit chance against close enemies. It would be so cool if you could just get like a generic crit chance. So that is like gonna be like an easy change, I hope. Then the leap animation also is clunky. You might have noticed this. Basically, what happens if you leap and you land and you don't do an action immediately after, like you get stuck in place for like a couple frames. So you basically have to set up like a force move. I have it on the mouse wheel here to kind of interrupt your leap animation. And I think that's just not a cool way of playing this, and also encourages like macro usages or some other stuff. And it just is also like very tedious and clunky to play. And I really think and hope that the leap could be adjusted back to, you know, how it worked before some of these patches where it got changed. So it just makes it feel clunky. If you're leaping on the same target, it's just really annoying. Then, okay, we talked about this briefly. The core skill builds on Barb feel really underwhelming. Like, none of the builds has seen any DPS playstyle. Like, Hoda with this rune is a support for bash or for overpower builds, like just to improve the damage after it's been nerfed like crazy. Whirlwind is only a support skill to generate fury, to move around, and to proc, you know, Druid's Might, or to proc your Dust Devil aspect. Rend is a complete joke if you compare it to Flay. Like, Flay is like so much better than Rend. It's actually ridiculous. And well, then we have Upheaval. This has not been really in the meta since the betas or something, where we played like, you know, in the open beta where we fought like a Shava and stuff on level 25. Upheaval was cool, but it's not really seen any play since then. And Double Swing was great in season 1, but also is basically no DPS in comparison to, you know, any of the basic skills or any of the other builds that the Barb has in its arsenal. So again, like, core skills deliver powerful attacks. Yeah, this description is not really accurate anymore. It's mostly going to be the basic skills that deliver powerful attacks right now. So yeah, there could definitely be some rebalancing, and this long term as well. But I just feel like, you know, core skills, and this is not only on the Barb. This also happens in other classes where core skills are just underperforming for a long time. And that's basically been my class feedback and my feedback. I have one last topic. And some general things. I'm probably going to make a separate video on the topic of caps. We'll maybe talk about it like for very shortly. But there's a couple general things here, just real quick. So it would be great to keep the mind cages in the game. So right now you can use this amazing item here to boost the difficulty and also juice the rewards of the Hell Tides. But this is a season theme. I didn't even know about this. I think this would be a great addition for the base game. Maybe they could even make it stackable so you can use multiple of these. Like, every time you use one, you increase the monster level by 10, by 20, by 30, whatever you want. Maybe cap it at some point at 200 or something. But it definitely is a way to make the game and make Helltide more interesting. So I would very much like for this to stay in the game. That would be super cool. Also, let boss summoning materials and consumables like instances stack way higher. I'm not sure why they even kept like randomly at 20 or 50. If you watch my inventory here, like, I have these soothing spices, and I don't know, like, why are these kept at 20? And then these elixirs are kept at 99. And then the boss summoning materials are kept at 50. Like, why can they not all stack to like 999 or something, so I don't have this mess in my inventory? Now, there's just like a couple quality of life, I think. Like, we have still big space issues, and right now we can't get more stash tabs, so it would be cool to have some quality of life, like stack these more, like 20, 50, like, why? Same goes for the Orbos cap. It was really cool that this has been increased to 2,500. But man, you reach it so fast, and I think like 9,999 or something would be way cooler. Also maybe an opinion to an option, not an opinion, but an option to shorten damage numbers. Like in D3, you know, instead of saying a 1 with 6 zeros, just say 1M or 1B or 1T or 1T or something. Like just like short floating combat numbers or something. That'd be cool and also reduce screen clutter quite a lot. They already did a great change with the way on the PTR you can choose now which damage you want to show. Like you can like, I don't know, don't show me overpower damage or only show me the crits and stuff. So that's been cool. And maybe some shorter numbers here would also help even further. Also, the enchantment weighing system feels pretty counterintuitive, especially for new players. I get this question a lot. And people just don't understand or just don't know about it because, yeah, the game also doesn't tell you. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to, you know, get cooldown on the amulet here. So there's like all these options that you can see in the game now, great addition. But you don't know, for example, that cooldown is extremely rare. Like it doesn't tell you anywhere. So a lot of people have been wasting so much materials and so much gold and just trying to get like cooldown on an amulet or something, or even like a passive. And I think they should just all have the same chance. You know, like don't make it like a weighted system, just make it an equal amount for everything. Or at least communicate it somehow in-game to the player. But I think it should just get removed. Like the weighting system is not really cool for the players, I feel. Also, the buff bar down here in the game, especially if you're using, like, I'm just gonna buff myself here, especially if you're using like instances and elixirs and like, you know, Barbarian has a lot of buffs here when I just start playing. Let me just go in here for a second. And you guys will see, like, I cannot see crucial buffs on my buff bar because there's just too many of them and the buff bar caps out. And then a lot of times, especially on Barb, I can't see if I'm berserking or not. And that's a pretty important, you know, information to have if you are playing. You guys will see this here in a second. So once I start casting all my buffs, you see like my buff bar is already like full. I can't see my second decimator stack, for example. And you know, once this drops off, like you see how many more icons there are, and like there's different builds that have this problem even crazier. You see now I don't see how many whirlwind stacks I have, for example. And just like all kinds of things, and when this drops, like then I'll suddenly see I have 37. But I was not able to see this or not able to track this at all. So that is definitely an issue that will be a big quality of life change to expand the buff bar somehow. And also, like, you know, if you have like a full inventory of items, there's a salvage all button, which is great, but there's no sell all button. So in order to solve gold problems, especially early in the season, people really like to like sell their items, and it would just be a big quality of life to have a sell all button. Then I have one last topic. I'm probably going to make a separate video. I just want to touch on this really quickly. They introduced caps on almost everything in the game, such as, like, you know, the passives. Not almost everything in the game, but like a lot of passives and a lot of Paragon nodes here are kept now. So for example, Hemorrhage has been kept. Like here right now, obviously in the live game it's not capped, but the new Hemorrhage is going to be capping at 45%. And this is the same case for Thunderstroke or from the burning damage passive on the Sorcerer. And every class, Wither on the Necromancer, has to deal with these caps. And I always feel caps just limits player choice and it caps the fun. Again, I'll make a separate video going into more detail. But basically, to make it short, in the current season, you have a lot of build options on the Barb. You can decide to stack crit, you can decide to stack vulnerable, you can decide to stack berserking and stuff. And there's just more and more caps. So eventually, I think it's going to lead to that we're just going to be playing the exact same build. Like everybody's just going to run around, 70 rest cap, 9,200 armor cap, 300 berserking on the Barb, 350 vulnerable for Hemorrhage. And then maybe soon we'll even get a gushing wounds cap and just everything is kept. And, you know, there's no more diversity because now everybody just knows, yeah, well, duh, we're just going to be capping our blood rage and then we forget about it. And then berserk damage is useless. Or the same goes for Hemorrhage. We're just going to cap it and then it's useless. So I think this just kills the build diversity. You know, there was like a lot of discussion and calculation and builds around, like, you know, how much ratio of vulnerable and crit and main stat and whatever should I have. And I think that's really cool for the diversity of the game and the diversity of builds. And I think just the main takeaway that I have here is I think rather than introducing these hard caps, maybe introduce soft caps that have a diminishing return. For example, I don't know, this could be armor, this could be blood rage, you know, 300 berserking gives you a 1.3x multiplier, and then you add another 300 berserking, and this one gives you half the efficiency, so only 5% efficiency, and so on, right? Same for the armor. There's so many armor sources, and it just feels weird that the armor just caps at 9,000, and then you can't stack more, and everything else is useless. I think it would be way cool if it just like goes significantly down in terms of value, but still has some value if you decide to get, I don't know, 20,000 armor on your character, right? So here, it just chose a random number. This could be any number. Like you double your armor and you only get 5% more DR. Or it could be 2.5% or whatever, right? And then you double your armor again, and this is probably almost unreachable unless you go full crazy. You get 92%. So you would never reach 100% damage reduction, basically, because the value is going to be impossible to reach. But then there would still be an incentive to, I don't know, like get some extra armor, or get the Juggernaut aspect, or get the armor percent tempering rolls, or get more berserking damage. There's a choice, right? But yeah, with more and more caps, I think the fun is kept more and more. I agree it is necessary to somehow change these infinite scaling nodes, but I would just much rather see soft caps instead of hard caps, so there is more build diversity and more choice for the player. And that has basically been my feedback, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. We still have 4 weeks. I highly encourage you guys, if you have some feedback, if you've played the PTR and you feel any kind of way about it, go to the official forums, leave some constructive, try to be constructive always, constructive feedback. Don't just say, you know, this is bad or this is good, or like, you know, just give some reason and maybe also a suggestion if something does not feel right. And I think that helps the most to, you know, make Season 5 hopefully as great as Season 4, so we can then move on to the expansion and just have a great time together and enjoy some video games, guys. I hope you enjoyed the overview, guys. Again, the written version is also going to be in the description. And again, I highly encourage you to leave some feedback, check some stuff on the forums, and let's make the game better together. I'll see you soon, my friends. Take care. GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.